Breaking news has just sent shockwaves through the NFL world, and it's the kind of announcement that instantly changes the conversation around one of the most talked about franchises in all of sports, because the Dallas Cowboys have officially named Ben Johnson as their new head coach, and this is not just another routine coaching hire. This is a statement, this is a gamble, and this is the Cowboys loudly telling the league that they are done being stuck in neutral and ready to chase greatness again. Because for years now Dallas has lived in that frustrating space between good and great, talented but inconsistent, dominant in the regular season yet heartbreakingly predictable when the pressure is highest. And this move feels different, it feels intentional, modern, aggressive, and forward-thinking, especially when you consider who Ben Johnson is and what he represents in today's NFL, because Johnson has built a reputation as one of the brightest offensive minds in football, a coach who understands how today's game is won, not just with talent but with creativity, adaptability, and fearlessness. And when the Cowboys decided to hand him the keys to one of the most valuable and scrutinized franchises in sports, they weren't just hiring a coach, they were choosing an identity, they were choosing evolution over comfort, innovation over familiarity, and potential over nostalgia. And that's why this announcement has fans, analysts, and rival teams paying attention, because everyone knows that when the Cowboys get it right, the ripple effects are felt across the entire league, and Ben Johnson's rise to this moment has been anything but accidental. He earned his reputation by crafting offenses that are dynamic, unpredictable, and brutally efficient. Offenses that don't just rely on raw talent but put players in the best possible positions to succeed, week after week, matchup after matchup. And what separates Johnson from so many other offensive coaches is his ability to adjust to see what a defense is trying to take away and counter it in real time, to design plays that look familiar but hit differently, to make average looks turn into explosive gains. And that skill set is exactly what Dallas has been missing in its biggest moments, because for all the talent the Cowboys have had over the years, too often their offense has looked tight, rigid, and easier to defend when the games mattered most. And now the hope is that Johnson's system will finally unlock the full potential of this roster, starting with Dak Prescott, whose career may be more impacted by this hire than anyone else's, because Dak has long been a quarterback caught in the middle of league-wide debates, praised for his leadership and production, criticized for postseason shortcomings, and judged relentlessly because of the star on his helmet. And Ben Johnson's arrival represents both an opportunity and a challenge for Dak. An opportunity because Johnson's offense is built around rhythm, timing, and clarity, things that play directly into Prescott's strengths, and a challenge because there will be no more excuses, no more hiding behind outdated schemes or predictable play calling, because if Dak thrives under Johnson, the narrative around him changes dramatically, but if he doesn't, then the questions become impossible to ignore, and that same spotlight extends to the rest of the Cowboys' offense, especially CeeDee Lamb, who under Johnson's guidance could reach an entirely new level. Because Johnson is known for moving his top receivers all over the field, forcing defenses to reveal coverage, creating mismatches, and manufacturing touches that allow stars to do what they do best in space, and the idea of Lamb being deployed creatively, constantly in motion, lining up inside and outside, being fed in high-leverage situations, is enough to make defensive coordinators lose sleep. And it doesn't stop there, because Johnson's offensive philosophy values versatility, meaning running backs, tight ends, and secondary receivers all become meaningful pieces rather than afterthoughts, and that kind of balance is exactly what the Cowboys have lacked when games tighten up and opponents sell out to stop one or two stars, and beyond the X's and O's. This hire speaks volumes about the Cowboys' mindset as an organization, because for a long time Dallas has been criticized for being too comfortable, too conservative, too focused on maintaining relevance rather than chasing champions. Hips at all costs, but hiring Ben Johnson signals a willingness to trust a younger coach, to embrace a modern approach, and to accept the growing pains that sometimes come with building something new. And that's not an easy decision in a market like Dallas where patience is thin and expectations are sky high, yet it may be the exact risk the franchise needed to take, because the NFL is evolving faster than ever. Defenses are smarter, schemes are more complex, and the teams that win are the ones willing to adapt, and Johnson has shown that adaptability time and time again. earning respect not just from players but from peers across the league, many of whom viewed him as the next great head coach long before this announcement became official, and the reaction since the news broke has been nothing short of explosive, with fans flooding social media with a mix of excitement, relief, and cautious optimism, because Cowboys fans have been burned before. They've heard promises of new eras and fresh starts only to watch seasons end the same way, but there's a different tone this time, a sense that this hire actually aligns with where the league is headed rather than where it's been, and analysts have been quick to point out that this move instantly changes how the Cowboys are viewed going forward, not just as a talented team but as a dangerous one, a team that could finally out-scheme opponents instead of simply trying to out-talent them, and of course, no discussion about the Cowboys is complete without talking about pressure, because the pressure on Ben Johnson will be immense from day one. He's stepping into a role where every decision is dissected, every loss magnified, and every press conference analyzed, and he'll be expected not just to win but to win convincingly, to show growth, to deliver in prime time, and most importantly, to succeed in the postseason, because in Dallas, regular season success is no longer enough, banners and trophies are the standard, and Johnson knows that. He knows that his legacy in Dallas will ultimately be defined by what happens in January and February, not September and October, yet there's reason to believe he's built for this challenge, because his coaching style emphasizes communication, preparation, and accountability, qualities that resonate in a locker room full of veteran leaders and young stars, and if he can bring cohesion to all three phases of the team, not just offense but culture and mentality, then the Cowboys could finally shed the label of underachievers and step into their potential as true contenders. And when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, this hire also sends a message to the rest of the NFC, because the conference has been wide open, with power shifting year to year, and Dallas believes that with the right coach, their window is not closing but opening wider, and that belief is what makes this announcement so compelling, because it's not rooted in rebuilding or starting over, it's rooted in maximizing what's already there, and that's what makes Ben Johnson such a fascinating choice. He's not being asked to fix a broken franchise, he's being asked to finish an unfinished one, to take a team that's been knocking on the door and finally kick it down, and whether he succeeds or fails, one thing is undeniable: the Dallas Cowboys have officially entered a new chapter, one filled with bold ideas, high expectations, and no shortage of pressure, and as the NFL world watches closely, a question looms larger than all the rest: will Ben Johnson be the coach who finally brings the Cowboys back to the top of the football world? Or will this be another chapter in a long story of what might have been? And that question, that uncertainty, that mix of hope and risk, is exactly what makes this moment so captivating, because love them or hate them, when the Cowboys make a move like this, the entire league stops and pays attention, and right now, all eyes are on Dallas, on Ben Johnson, and on a future that suddenly feels wide open.